Good morning. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'hakol niya b'dvaro. Recently, a friend of mine shared something really powerful with me. So he has been facing for a very long time in his life challenges with regards to his eating, his unhealthy eating, diet, being overweight. And he's tried many different solutions, diets and professionals and nutritional professionals and programs. And they've all worked for a short amount of time, but then they don't work long term. And nothing has worked. But recently he told me that he started seeing somebody new to help him. And this time it's working. It's already been a long time that he's changed his life. He's changed his eating habits. He's looking better. He's feeling better. So I asked him, what was the difference this time than all the previous times? Why is this time working? And he answered, and he told me something very profound. He said that all the previous programs and professionals that he was seeing and doing, even though they were all different methods, but they all focused on the same thing. They focused on healthy eating. They focused on the food. How do we eat healthier foods in healthier amounts? Which foods are good, which foods are not good, what times of the day are better to eat, what times of the day are not good to eat, how to have better meal times and snack times, or to remove snacks. Everything was about the food-centered. This time was different. In this person that he's seeing, they rarely talk about food and rarely talk about healthy eating. Instead, they talk about healthy living. They talk about life itself. And healthy living, a much larger context, means many kinds of things. It means getting better sleep. It means getting better rest, relaxation. It means being more efficient. It means waking up on time, being more productive, being more organized, having various hobbies, different interests, being more committed, being more reliable. And within all of these important factors of healthy living is also the food. And the food is just one detail of a larger concept. And once he was opened up to a bigger idea, a larger idea, perhaps a more essential idea, then his eating challenges are falling into place with that much larger focus. And this is a really important and powerful idea, which is along the themes of what we've been talking about. And we're going to focus today also in chapters 8 and 9 in this discourse. Here's another example. Nowadays, it's very common in the business world, especially, to talk about mission-driven businesses or mission-driven organizations. What's a mission-driven company? It's a company that, sometimes you have a company and maybe you're selling a particular product, you're offering a particular service, and along the way, in the operations and in the day-to-day hectic setup of systems and staff and customers, sometimes you can get lost. You can get lost in what it is that you're really supposed to do and trying to do and investing time and efforts, and where you should not be wasting time. And then sometimes real big decisions arise. And how do you figure out the answers and what are the correct solutions and when to say yes or when to say no? And it can become really difficult to navigate through a lot of these complexities. Whereas a mission-driven company or organization is one that at its core has a very strong, clear mission statement. This is who we are. This is what we're about. These are our goals. Clear. It's on pen and paper in 3 lines. Automatically, every decision and every challenge and every hurdle that comes along doesn't need to be treated in a vacuum. What's the answer to this? There's a compass, a guiding force, like a lighthouse that is illuminating every system, every operation, every layer of this company. That the bottom line, the question is always be, does this align with the mission statement or does it not? And that helps ensure that the way that we navigate the future of this company, this organization, and all the different decisions that need to be made are all in alignment with our original goals. So here's an example of how that can simplify things or elevate your whole operations. Let's say, for example, there's an issue in the company employees are becoming slack. They're not coming on time, they're coming late, things are messy, things are disorganized, not punctual, not efficient, customer service, it's not really going right, all kinds of issues. How are you going to address that? You're the CEO. So if you were not a mission-driven company, then what you'd probably have to do is you have to sit with every employee and go through their job description and explain your job is 9 to 5. You can't come later than 9. You can't leave earlier than 5. You have to keep your office a certain way. You have to keep your demeanor, your dress code a certain way, treat people, answer the phones, get back within 20, whatever the systems are that you want in place. But you have to go through every single step and layer and challenge and try to band-aid solution to everything. If you were a mission-driven company, the solution is, in a way, much more simple, much more profound, much more effective. Create your mission or highlight your mission and send out a memo to every single member, every single office, every single department. This is our mission statement. Be clear about who we are, what we do, and what are our goals. And make sure that every single one of your behaviors and systems and schedules are in alignment with this mission and achieving these goals. If they are, good. If they're not, you better change your ways. And if almost like automatically, this illuminates the entire company and everyone just changes and adapts because they know that they have this compass that stands at the top of the hierarchy and they need to live up to and be in sync with that. So these are examples for what we're describing here. Here we're talking about a kind of mission statement, but on a deeper level, we're talking about the revelation of the essence. And when the essence is revealed, then everything else, all of the manifest levels, become illuminated and in line with and elevated to the spirit of the essence. So whether we're talking about the essence of the infinite light of God and the way it radiates throughout the many levels and worlds and layers of creation, whether we're talking about the essence of Torah, the way the Torah is God's wisdom, oneness with God himself, and then the way that that will manifest and radiate throughout the various layers and levels of Torah. Or whether we're talking about the essence of ourselves, of our souls, and the way that that can illuminate and shine and project itself throughout the many layers of our persona. It's so different if we treat a particular level or a particular concept or a particular realm in a vacuum versus when and where it becomes a product of and illuminated by its essential meaning. So here we're dealing with the Torah of CHASSIDUT, Hasidic teachings. And we've described the Hasidic teachings is our revelation of the Yichidah, which is the essential level of the endless, infinite light of Hashem. Then we have the various manifest levels and projections of Torah. We spoke about there are 4 general levels of Torah, the Pardes, the orchard of Torah. Pardes stands for 4 words, Pshat, Remez, Drush, Sod. Pshat, the simple meaning of a particular verse of Torah, a particular law of Torah. Remez, what is it a hint? What is an allusion to? So, Drush, a kind of homiletical, allegorical life lesson from it. And Sod, the mystical, Kabbalistic meaning of something. Then there's the Chassidut. Then there's the infinite light of Hashem, the way it could radiate within them. And what we're going to discover is that it's one thing if it take a particular teaching, a particular level of Torah in a vacuum on its own, and it's very different when you understand how the essential core and infinite light of Torah radiates throughout the rest of Torah. So you could have a particular law or a particular Jewish custom or a value and understand it on its own and say, what is it and how does it feel and what are you supposed to do and what's the intentionality behind it? It has one level of value. It has a complete different, higher, more powerful level of value when you understand the soul behind it. And the Rebbe brings here actually a halachic source for this concept, right? It's a very interesting concept. And the source is from a rule in the laws of Yom Kippur. So we know Yom Kippur is the holiest day in the Jewish calendar, as the Torah describes, Achat Bashanot, a singular day where there's a level of atonement for all people, level of connection with Hashem. And in the times of the temple, it was very unique that on that one day, all of the service in the temple was performed by the one singular person, the high priest. And he would actually also enter the one singular place called the Holy of Holies, that room in the temple that only one person on one day a year could enter. And there was a kind of spiritual experience and elevation of that space, but of the entire world, that occurred in Yom Kippur, that automatically achieved the renewal and the atonement that everybody is trying to accomplish. Nowadays, we don't have the temple worship, but we have our services in the synagogue, and we have 5 prayers of Yom Kippur, which is unique. Most days of the week in Judaism, there are 3 prayers. On Shabbat and festivals, there are 4 prayers. And the only day of the year that we have 5 prayers is Yom Kippur. Now, a little clue over here, the 5 prayers correspond to the 5 levels of the soul that we've spoken about. In other words, the additional 5th prayer, the 5th level, is the Yechida, is the essence of the soul. And now on Yom Kippur, we're discovering that there's a revelation of the essence of God's light, and automatically that illuminates the day and the experience and what one can accomplish in a complete different way, higher way that could ever be achieved on any other day of the year. All right, so here's the law. We know that every day, even regular weekdays in the temple, there was a daily sacrifice, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. And that sacrifice could be offered by any Kohen, any priest. It didn't have to be the Kohen Gadol, the high priest. When it comes to Yom Kippur, there are special performances of worship, of ritual, unique to Yom Kippur. Like I mentioned, going into the Holy of Holies and offering a special Yom Kippur sacrifice and special Yom Kippur incense to be burned. So all of those very unique rituals of Yom Kippur had to be performed by the high priest. He was in the spotlight for that day. What about the regular daily offering that was offered yesterday in the temple and tomorrow in the temple and is also offered today in Yom Kippur? The law says that this too must be performed by the high priest only. Why? We offered the very same sacrifice yesterday, and we'll offer it tomorrow. And yesterday and tomorrow, a regular priest could offer it. Today, all of a sudden, it's that regular sacrifice, not the special Yom Kippur sacrifice. And nonetheless, only the high priest can perform that ritual. Why? The answer is because even though it looks like a regular sacrifice, the same one which you would offer yesterday and tomorrow, but today it's not. Today it's different. Because today it's a sacrifice that's being performed on Yom Kippur. And Yom Kippur is the day that a new, different kind of spiritual divine light radiates on that day. It's the essential light from Hashem. And because there's a different radiance of God's light on that day, it doesn't only impact and influence the unique rituals of Yom Kippur, but it impacts and influences and elevates every single layer, every single level and kind of worship on that day. Even the most mundane, regular daily worship. Whereas on a different day, it would just be a regular worship, a regular sacrifice that a regular Kohen can perform. But today, it achieves a new status. Today, it's a Yom Kippur sacrifice. Even though it's not a unique Yom Kippur, it's a daily sacrifice, but today it's a Yom Kippur sacrifice. And today it's elevated to a new status. And today only the Kohen Gadol, the high priest, can offer it. That's an example of how when the essence of something shines, it transforms and it changes everything in its surroundings. So, if we wanted to really appreciate this concept as it is manifest in the entire Torah, what we would do is we'd have to go through every single law of Torah, every single subject, every single topic of Torah, and figure out how do we understand the 4 layers, right? Any law, any custom, any verse of Torah. There's the pshat, there's its simple meaning, there's its remez, its hint, its homiletical meaning, its mystical meaning. You could do this with every single subject in Torah. And then let's figure out what is the unique essence, spiritual light of Chassidut in that particular topic or subject. And once we've discovered that, how does that essential light now radiate and change and transform and elevate all the other layers and interpretations of Torah? Right? That's the fact. That exists in the entire Torah. In this discourse, the Rebbe says, we can't go through the whole Torah. We're limited on time. But I want to choose one particular topic that we'll explore in depth. And from here, we'll be able to take a lesson, an example that this applies and can be done with any other topic in the Torah. Which topic, which law, which custom are we choosing here? Arguably the most important prayer for Jews. What is that? It's the prayer of Modeh Ani. Every morning, first thing in the morning, as soon as we wake up, before we've begun our day, before we even wash our hands, before we get dressed, before we go to the bathroom, before we brush our teeth, before we eat breakfast, before we go to the synagogue to pray, before we work, before our day even begins, we start off with the Modeh Ani prayer. Lying down in bed, we say, Modeh Ani lefanecha melech chai v'kayam. I hereby give gratitude to you, God, King of the universe. Shechazarta bin nishmati bechemla, that you have restored my soul back in me with great compassion. Rabba emunatecha, my faith in you is great. It's the prayer of gratitude. It's the prayer of acknowledgement. Thank you, Hashem. Thank you for giving me another day, for the gift of the present. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to be alive and to live my life's mission and to serve you. It's an informal prayer. We don't dress up. We don't go to the synagogue. We don't have the minyan. We're lying down in bed because that is the nature of the prayer. It is by definition, it's informal. It is almost instinctual, almost impulsive. It's just the first thing you want to do or you should want to do when you wake up. Just like you may want to turn to your loved one and say, hey, good morning, honey, I love you. And that's not something you plan, you prepare, you dress up. You just do it immediately. Well, the same thing goes by even before then, is doing it to Hashem. So Modeh Ani is a very good place to start because it's such an essential experience, prayer and experience. It's a meditation at the very beginning of the day. And as the commentaries describe and explain this prayer, because it's such a foundational prayer, it's a prayer that when we recite it in the morning with a sense of intentionality, with a sense of meditation, when we try to experience the prayer, it's not just a verbal declaration, but it's an experience where we're extending and really offering gratitude. It's a prayer that's supposed to carry us throughout the day, like a foundation. A foundation to a building it's not just the first thing that you build, but actually the entire building forever rests upon that foundation. Similarly, Modeh Ani is not just the first prayer that we recite every day, but throughout the day, all of our experiences, all of our actions and behaviors and decisions, whether it's in holy things, prayer and Torah study, or in our work, or in our hobbies, or with our friends, or errands, or whatever we do, should all be built upon the foundation of the Modeh Ani experience. If we can deeply acknowledge our awareness and gratitude to our Creator, and that is the source of our life, and never take that for granted, then throughout our entire day, we will have this consciousness in our minds, and that will change, and that will define the experiences that we have throughout the day, that each one of them will be with intentionality, will be with the foundation and with the awareness of our original awareness and acknowledgement of God in the morning. And finally, another beautiful concept of Modeh Ani is the Rebbe brings a kind of allegorical idea, and he quotes Maimonides for this, where the idea of awakening isn't only awakening from physical sleep, that you slept throughout the night, but sleep can also refer to a spiritual slumber. Right? You may be physically awake, but you are in a state of sleep, which means your mind is switched off, your soul is switched off, you're not very conscious, you're not very alert to your life, alert to the opportunities, alert to your identity, alert to your role in this universe. And so things are just running by you, and days are going by, and moments and experiences are going by, and nothing is really being capitalized, and nothing is really so meaningful. So there needs to be a kind of awakening. The Modeh Ani not only is an awakening prayer from your physical sleep, it should also be an awakening prayer from your spiritual or emotional slumber. And if you wish to embark on a path of Torah and a path of mitzvot, and a path of true, genuine relationship with Hashem, and true, genuine commitment to your mission in life, you have to have a Modeh Ani experience. You have to have a jolt. You have to have something which wakes you up, which startles you, which brings you to a state of being alert, of being aware, of being mindful of who you are and what's going on and where you are. And then you can embark on a true life of spiritual fulfillment. That is all a brief general overview of the Modeh prayer. So that's a good place to start, says the Rebbe. And what we're going to do in the next chapter, in the next class, is to spend time exploring the Modeh prayer. What is its meaning according to the pshat, the simple meaning? What is the remez? What is a kind of hint alluded to in this prayer? A higher level of allegory and homiletical interpretation? What is a mystical interpretation into the prayer? And we're going to find so many beautiful, rich ideas behind this prayer that you could have in mind in the mornings when you recite this. And then the climax will be when we'll explore and understand the CHASSIDUT, the essential teaching, the essential light and concept behind this prayer. And if we'll tap into the essence, then we'll discover how that changes and illuminates all the other particular explanations that we identified. So this is now a very exciting and very practical part of the discourse, which I hope you'll join us in future classes. So have an amazing day, and I hope you're getting illuminated and enlightened by the deep ideas of Torah. God bless you, and see you in next class.